article that we're talking about here is when he said, "So guys who just look at chicks' boobs, come on, there's more to women and more to beauty than just boobs. So we want to make a little more adult, or take a little more adult approach to how to make women beautiful." And I agree with that sentiment. But no, he doesn't. They have no interest in that. That's that. Like I said, PR bullshit. That's all it is.
Coming from the Dead or Alive guy, that means less than nothing. Yeah.
If it wasn't coming from him, well, because it was coming from him, it just made me laugh my ass off. So,
but can't there be room for both? I don't understand why we can't have both. I mean,
maybe not from the same person.
Okay, all right.
Not the same
his
game,
hypocrisy knows no bounds. Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean,
okay.
It's what they do. They make booby physics, and it's exploitative and it's ridiculous, but it's what they do. So it's not really any point fighting it.
Yeah.
Well, if Dead or Alive, and I would totally be down with that sentiment if Dead or Alive was a shit fighter, but it's not. It's actually, I find it to be a very good and enjoyable fighter outside of watching boobs bounce around. I mean, that's just a plus.
Sure you do.
That's just like the cherry on the sundae, dude.
It's just gravy.
I see.
Anybody watching the live stream right now, I'm actually showing the alpha footage from Dead or Alive 5, and it looks amazing. It is the most dynamic fighter we'll probably see this generation, and probably the most dynamic fighter ever. It's fantastic. I love it. I can't wait for it. And like I said, watching boobs bounce around while you kick somebody's ass is just a bonus.
That I totally get what you're saying, man. And I agree with you. Dead or Alive, I spent a lot of time playing Dead or Alive 2 on my PS2 years ago. It's all joking aside, I'm actually sure this game is going to be really entertaining to watch as well as play.
Sure,
absolutely.
They've been solid fighters.
Yeah.
Joe, what do you think? Are you a big fan of the Dead or Alive series?
I'm never gonna be I like hot chicks kicking ass. That's something I'm very big on, and I'm not gonna argue with anybody who wants to do it. I just don't try to tell me that you're gonna bring a lot of thin beauty to these women. That's more than just their boobs. It's not true. I know what you're doing. You want to make a fighting game where they kick the shit out of each other and don't wear a lot of clothing, and there's a market for that. And don't be apologetic. Just do it. Just come out with it.
Yeah, there you go. I can get behind that. Don't be apologetic about it.
There you
Just
go.
admit it. Be upfront. I admit it. I admit that I'm part of that audience that makes this market work. I love it.
Admit it, you proclaim it.
Yeah, you're right. Don't sit there and say that you are anything more than, I get what you're saying now. Now I'm behind you.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys want to talk about God of War Ascensions multiplayer? Sure. The trailer, the debut, if you will.
I think Alex has sighed heavily.
I did, and here's why. You don't need multiplayer in God of War. I've heard. I've listened to other podcasts. I've read this article, and apparently it's really cool, and I'm sure it is. But that does not seem like an interesting way to play a game like God of War. I mean, I feel like it'll turn into something like, you guys remember Bushido Blade back in the PS1?
Yeah.
I feel like it'll be like that, and maybe it could be good. I just feel like it could just weaken the core experience. I don't know. That's all I'm wondering. Or worried about, I should say.
I think it depends how much time they give to it. I mean, if they focus as hard on the core experience as they have in the past and just add it on as an add-on, I don't see a problem with it. I mean, just you don't have to play it if you don't want to.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping so. I mean, they might... I don't know. I've heard interesting theories, including something as conspiratorial as they're only adding multiplayer to, implement an online pass to sort of coerce gamers into buying the game new. But I'm not going to go that. I'm not going to go that far.
Would be clever.
It would be clever in the sense that it wouldn't be surprising. I mean,
it wouldn't be shocking.
Evil.
Yeah, filling in for Scotty D's absence. Hope you feel better, man. No, saying that to him.
It's I find it interesting. I didn't hate the multiplayer trailer. I actually thought it looked kind of fun. Mm-hmm. What we were watching was a capture and control multiplayer mode where both teams were going at it, beating the crap out of each other in this kind of open arena style of play. All the while, this giant boss was in the background, this giant Cyclops. And if you get to a certain point where you've controlled enough of the field, you get to actually execute the Cyclops, which I thought was pretty fantastic and looked really good.
Yeah.
As far as whether it needs to be in a God of War game or the single player suffers, I've always gone on record as saying single player should always come first. And a game that hasn't established a multiplayer component in its franchise and is now it's always worrisome. It's always worrisome that suddenly, okay, now we're going to do multiplayer. Yeah. It's like, okay, well, you're taking assets away from the single player, which makes, I don't care what a developer says. It means it's going to be less.
Yeah, see, I just thought of something, and I might back down a little bit on my skepticism. I mean, I'm not going to back down my skepticism, but because I just can't. It's God of War multiplayer. It's retarded. Anyway, I remember we were saying, a lot of us were at least, the exact same thing when Mass Effect 3's multiplayer was announced. And that turned out to actually be really fucking good. So,
yeah, I thought Mass Effect 3's multiplayer was really, really fun, and that BioWare did a good job. It wasn't it wasn't the deepest thing ever, and it wasn't the major draw of the game.
Yeah, but they incorporated it so well into the single player, and they did. I think they did, at least. Yes. And I thought that its multiplayer was really fun, and it clearly didn't. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of people out there, who just maybe might have hated the ending, that would probably disagree with me and say that had something to do with it, though I think that's complete bullshit. I think that they incorporated it perfectly. That's how you do multiplayer in a single-player experience, I would say.
I'm not disagreeing with you on any front. BioWare did a fantastic job, except for the idea that maybe we could have got a few more color palettes in those goddamn repetitive final videos, the final sequences in Mass Effect 3, if we didn't have assets devoted to that multiplayer.
It's quite possible.
Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed, but a developer gets a certain amount of money, a budget, to develop a game. If you put some of that budget into a multiplayer component, that money is now spent. It is not there anymore.
Yeah, and the budget for God of War Ascension probably doesn't come close to Mass Effect 3's. So I totally am with you on that.
Probably not.
Yeah, it's one system. It's one platform. So they only get so much money with that in mind. So I don't know. But the other thing that worried me about this is because I was under the impression that this multiplayer is going to be sort of like a paper, rock, scissors kind of thing, where you're fighting other people, and that just strikes me as not very fun. I mean, it could be better than... It might be a little more complex than that, but I mean, that's what I've been hearing about this multiplayer, and I just don't like the sound of that. Wait, so you mean
it's like it's working on like a die roll type system, like an MMO?
Maybe. I'm not totally sure. I'm not really... I don't think many people really know exactly how the multiplayer works yet, but that was the impression a lot of... other podcasts I've listened to about the subject have had. A lot of people have had. So,
okay.
I don't know.
You're right. It is pretty early. I just found the footage that they actually released looked... I mean, it did. It looked enjoyable to me. It looked like an arena-based hack and slash against other people. And that kind of thing, I enjoy. I mean, and it's not in a competitive way, but just in a go-in, dumb fun kind of way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm kind of excited for it. I was a little worried about what we were going to see in the next God of War, but everything I've seen so far is not terrible. It doesn't point to the death of the series like I've kind of pointed to in earlier shows, saying it's not Eat, Sleep, Play, or it's not David Jaffe, so it's doomed to fail.
Yeah, it's not like Halo 4 either.
Hey, fuck you. 343 did an amazing job on Anniversary Edition.
It's true, and actually...
I have high hopes for Halo 4.
I'm just joking. I just think that God of War Ascension is a lot like... I mean, the announcement of God of War Ascension made me feel the exact same way when I heard about Halo 4 for the first time. I was just like, really? You really are going to do this? Okay. At least with Halo 4, they're making it a sequel. And I mean, I know I said this last time we were talking about God of War Ascension, but why the fuck do we need a prequel? Like, why? Why? It's just such an unoriginal way of, continuing a story of a character that people do really love.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. I don't like prequels, and we went over this last week, and
it's true.
I don't want to dwell too much on the fact that everybody hates prequels when we all already kind of know that. Let's talk about Aliens, Colonial Marines, and Randy Pitchford kind of spoiling some of the story for us.
Yeah.
Did he think that we didn't want to be surprised? Did he feel like that the idea of a video game based sequel, true sequel, canon sequel, needed to be explained?
Yes. I think it absolutely
really,
did.
Joe?
I think it absolutely did, because you know what? The problem is, as someone who's a giant Aliens fan, I have not given any two shits about the Alien games that have come out before, because they've all been shit. They've all been some first-person shooter against Predator, against Colonial Marines, and it's never been anything that carries forward any sort of plot line from anything. It's just, hey, these things are really cool, we're going to throw them in a game together. It's not going to be that great because it's on a console and you're going to hate it. This way, I think they spoiled a little too much for me. I think there's a lot of story in this, the Kotaku article they came out with explaining all this, but to find out that there's an actual game that's going to give me the story I want to continue that never got finished for me, I think that, as an Aliens fan, is going to draw me to that game more than the other games will ever have done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right, I'm down with that.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying too. And I've never seen at least all of Alien 3, and every indication that's been given to me by friends who have seen it is that I'm not missing out. But this actually, reading this, made me want to see Alien 3. I mean, at least after I've played this game.
Sure.
But so it didn't really ruin anything for me in the sense that, like, I didn't have this, like, notion of, like, what the story was supposed to be. So I think it's cool I do think it's cool though that it's in canon. I mean, that's really all I care about.
Yeah, and the fact that they actually, Gearbox, the developer behind Aliens Colonial Marines, the fact that they actually went to Ridley Scott and they talked to, I don't know if they talked to Cameron or not. Probably not. He probably didn't accept the phone call. He's like, dude, I'm working on Avatar 2. Fuck you.
When you
It's
said
going to take me 9 years to finish this.
Yeah, he picked up his solid gold phone and was just like, I don't know who this is. And his secretary announced the call, and he said, I'm not even talking to this Randy Pitchfork or whatever his name is.
Whatever. I hope the secretary gets pissed off at him one day and just beats him over the head with that gold phone. Avatar 2.
Unobtainium.
Yeah. Anyways, so Pitchford, the fact that they went to Ridley Scott, spoke to him about, I'm sure they spoke to him about what we're going to see in Prometheus.
Oh, yeah.
Prometheus is another direct tie-in.
Even if he doesn't actually admit it.
Yeah, Ridley Scott keeps saying it's not, which is just so annoying.
Bullshit.
We've seen aliens in the trailer!
Bullshit. We know what it is.
Yeah,
Anyways.
Yeah, keep going. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
It's fine. It's just, I love the fact that they're tying it all in, they're making it canon, and they're actually going to explain why we've seen the story move from LV-426 and Hadley's Hope to the prison planet and back to LV-426. I know that was a huge issue for everybody that was into the canon of Aliens, and knowing that this was going to be a direct sequel, we were like, wait a minute, that's the Sulaco, what's it doing there? The fact that they've actually tied that into the story, and they're tying in Wayland Yun. Is that how you pronounce it? Wayland Yun?
Yutani.
Wayland Yutani.
Wayland Yutani? Oh, my bad. The corporation behind trying to get one of these aliens back to Earth to weaponize it. It just sounds like the story is going to be much, much bigger than what we've seen in any Aliens game before it. And it's exciting, especially, I mean, watch the trailer, watch the demo footage, the work in progress footage. It looks fantastic. It really has captured, I mean, Gearbox just captured what James Cameron built in those movies.
Yeah, well, at least in the first
not so
one.
much Ridley Scott, but
yeah. Well, one thing that I think is really kind of funny about this is that this wouldn't have been possible if Alien 3 hadn't been such an inconsistent mess, from what people have said. That's the only reason why they're able to do this.
See, do you think, I don't know, Joe, do you think that's true? Do you think if we'd never gotten in Aliens 3 that this game wouldn't have been possible?
No.
I mean, it would have opened up the world, you know?
No, I'm just saying if Alien 3 would have been more consistent or closer, especially to like what it originally was going to be, which is, I've seen the trailer, the original teaser for Alien 3 and how it was supposed to take place on Earth. That's like what the teaser implied. So if that had actually happened and there hadn't been like 6 directors, see, I know a whole bunch about Alien 3 despite having never seen the actual full film. But if they hadn't gone through like such a period of development hell with that thing, I just want, if like it had actually worked out the first time, I just wonder if this wouldn't even have been possible.
Well, it's true. It's at a certain point, that story, I mean, that story that goes from 1, hits Alien 2, that story just ends. I mean, there's so many things. If you talk to Cameron or you hear any of his interviews, he's very on board with that idea of Hicks, Ripley, and Newt going back to the alien planet and blowing the shit out of them, or aliens coming to Earth. Some sort of that pairing